Let's get excited about the new year together with a discussion about successful goal setting, effective ways to reduce anxiety, and the positive mindset approach that will cause you to thrive in 2025. Hi everyone, Happy New Year. I hope that you had a very restful and enjoyable holiday break. I know that I did. With 1 week of 2025 already under our belts, I have a question for you. Are you approaching the months ahead with feelings of excitement or anxiety? December is widely considered to be the most stressful time of the year, with all of its planning, deadlines, and anticipation. It's not a huge surprise then that the feeling of pure exhaustion follows. Ironically, January, the month when our body chemistry is literally screaming at us to slow down and relax, somehow it's customary to set up goals and resolutions. And what do you think that tends to cause? You guessed it, anxiety. When faced with the pressure of finding ways to improve aspects of life, and with the deadline of a year to make it all happen no less, the feelings of uncertainty will bubble up and anxiousness will kick into high gear. You don't want to let yourself or anyone else down. At the same time, there can be a sense of excitement when the calendar gets flipped to a new year, with all of the possibilities that the days ahead might hold. So here at the very beginning of the year, when we're all feeling that mix of emotions, I want to cover a few things to take into consideration if you really want to make the most of the next 12 months. First off, if you are someone who does set resolutions or goals, it is vitally important that you're honest with yourself about the reasons why and who you're setting them for. If, for example, you have the goal of losing 20 pounds solely because your doctor mentioned you aren't at a healthy BMI, you're not going to take the same ownership over your weight loss as you would if your reason was more personal, like wanting to have the energy to play with your kids or grandkids. I personally think it's better to have a limited number of goals to focus on so that you're able to give them your best effort, sort of a quality over quantity type of approach. 1 to 4 seems to be a reasonable number for myself, but you'll have to decide what's comfortable for you. Once those goals are set, I recommend that each larger goal or resolution is broken into smaller bite-sized pieces. Let's say you have the goal of baking sourdough this year. Writing it down that way in a broad fashion is really open-ended. One of two things will probably happen. One, you'll put it off because you feel like you have all sorts of time, a full year, and then realize as the year comes to a close that you've really not made any effort toward the goal at all. Or 2, you do a little something with it early on but don't stay consistent, leading to wasted efforts and feeling like you've failed. Instead, it's really best to look at your goals in increments, maybe 1 week or 1 month at a time. Set up a game plan of sorts. For sourdough, that might look something like this. In the first month, I will research the benefits of baking with sourdough and the best ingredients to use. What grain sources are going to be quality for flour? In the second month, I will work on creating a healthy sourdough starter and find some recipes that look interesting to me. You can literally build out a mini to-do list for each week or month of the year, and meeting these smaller achievements will keep you excited about the next step toward that bigger picture goal. Whenever talking about goal setting, I make sure and mention the importance of accountability. I used to believe that it was best if I just kept my New Year's goals private. Looking back, I think that was a protective barrier. If I was the only one who knew about them, I wouldn't let anyone else down if I didn't succeed. In reality, it is so much better to have someone to walk alongside, bounce ideas off of, and to have as a cheerleader. Having an accountability partner also puts up another line of defense or boundary, so when you're faced with something that's tempting and not in line with your goals, they can point out the dangers or steer you back in the right direction. Always remember though that if things do get off track, it doesn't mean that the resolution is spoiled and that you should give up on it completely. If you have that solid reason for attempting this change in the first place, it is worth it to keep moving toward it no matter how many times you may falter. An additional thing that I've been doing the past several years when it comes to resolutions for the new year or goals is to identify one word that sort of encompasses everything that I'm trying to accomplish. So for example, in 2025, my word this year is reset, because a lot of my goals have to do with resetting some aspect of my life. So when I'm feeling frustrated about the day-to-day grind and everything that goes into meeting these goals, I can run that word through my mind, and it really does help to keep me focused and on track. If you decide to use this approach, I would love to hear what word that you choose for the new year, and you can leave me a comment about that down below. All right, let's move past the goal setting strategies and consider the rest of the year ahead. 365 days of potential obstacles and trials. We would be completely delusional to think that everything will go just as we plan or hope. In fact, every single day will offer a dose of disappointment in one way or another, ranging from minor things like burning the dinner or a canceled event, to much more serious issues like a scary health diagnosis or job loss. The question is, are you going to let that disappointment stall you or even paralyze you from striving for more? Or are you going to face it as it comes in a positive way? Over the holiday break, I listened to an audiobook by Dr. John Deloney called Building a Non-Anxious Life. It's a really good book. I would suggest that you read or listen to it, especially if you struggle with anxiety. I don't consider myself an anxious person, but I am someone who likes things to go as planned and can sometimes feel a bit unraveled if things don't go the way I expect them to. One of the biggest takeaways I got from the book was this: it is healthy to consider both the positive and the negative of a situation. If you only look at one or the other, your vision is going to be cloudy. Humans have a tendency to swing toward either optimism or pessimism depending on the situation, but we need to be careful to realize that both good and bad can coexist. Only thinking about the positive will make a person blind to potential dangers or pitfalls, and only considering the negative will lead to feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. The interesting thing is that for most people, the bad or negative thoughts flow more freely. We tend not to notice the good things that happen. Instead, we sort of just take them for granted. For example, have you ever experienced back pain? When your back is hurting, you can notice every little movement that you're making, things that are very difficult or even impossible to do. But what about when you're feeling pain-free? Do you notice all of the motions that you're able to make effortlessly, or do you just expect them to happen? I truly believe that it's the human default to expect the good, but acknowledge or notice the bad. And sadly, those bad thoughts can really overshadow the good ones pretty easily. As Dr. Deloney pointed out in the book, it's easy to get hooked on hopelessness. I'm a visual person, so this comes to mind as a good representation of positive and negative thoughts. This container is full of clear water. Let's imagine this as only positive thoughts. Think about how many drops of water it would take to fill this container. Thousands, probably. I'll use this blue food coloring to represent negative thoughts. Now watch what just one negative thought will do. Even though 100% optimism isn't realistic or even healthy, we have to put plenty of intention into acknowledging those positive thoughts, or they can easily be crowded out. So my challenge to you this new year is this: when disappointment comes, and as I said earlier, it will come, instead of just focusing on what went wrong and all the bad that comes with the situation, try to balance it with some optimism. Dinner was burned? Maybe that's a chance to take the family out to eat. A job loss? Well, one door closed, but another will open. And when things are going well or as planned, rejoice in those moments. If you're outside going on a walk, for example, enjoy the fresh air and the fact that your body is healthy and mobile. And finally, I want to end the video with some additional practical advice on ways to thrive in the new year. These aren't necessarily goals, but instead they are habits that are important to incorporate daily. I call them the big three, and I truly believe that if even a small portion of your day is dedicated toward them, you are going to gain a much healthier mindset and outlook on life. The The first is to focus on self-care. We spend a lot of time each day giving to other people, either our family members, coworkers, or clients. So for this habit, I encourage you to do one little thing each day that is just for you, to give yourself a boost of motivation or rest. Some examples might be taking a bubble bath, stretching your body, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying positive affirmations, or something as simple as just going on a nature walk. It might be helpful to create a nice long list of ideas that you can pull from so that you're never struggling deciding what you should do. You can mix it up and try something new each day, or if you're enjoying it, do the same thing every day. The key here is to just be consistent about always giving that time to yourself. The second of the big three is to sit in silence. I just don't think we do this enough in our ever-connected, busy world. We always seem to find a way to fill up each moment with some sort of sound or activity to the point where we might even feel uncomfortable to be alone with our thoughts. Taking even 3 to 5 minutes of the day to just sit still and be quiet might feel majorly intimidating, but I promise it can be very healing. Use the time to just let your mind go blank and focus on your breathing. After this becomes a habit, you'll find yourself looking forward to these few mentally recharging minutes each day. And lastly, I think it's important to do something productive with your hands every day. A long time ago, I heard the phrase, "idle hands are the devil's playground," meaning that when we sit around without doing anything productive, we're likely to make bad choices out of boredom. Taking even a small bit of time to create something by your own hands will give you confidence and a strong feeling of purpose. It doesn't need to be anything elaborate, maybe just putting a puzzle together, working on a craft project, or even cooking a meal from scratch. If you're able to commit even a few minutes a day to these big three, I can almost guarantee that you will see a positive change in your mindset. Give them a try. I truly hope that everything that I talked about today will serve as encouragement to you as you embrace 2025 with open arms, prepared to live life to its fullest with excitement and knowing how to deal with that anxiety and those negative thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope that you'll stop back again really soon.